Hello students, welcome to another session of life processes of class 10th, that is transportation in plants and circulation in animals. So we'll be discussing first about transportation in plants. As you know, plants need water and minerals from the soil, and who is responsible for conduction of this water and minerals to different parts of the body, to body of the plant? Mainly the xylem. The root hair cells will absorb water and transportation of minerals and water will occur. Likewise, we will be talking about translocation or transportation of food also, that is prepared food, which will be in the form of sucrose from green parts of plant like leaves, like green stem, to non-green parts like roots, to the pith, parenchyma cells, fruits, seeds. So let's proceed. Transportation in plants. Plants do not possess any circulatory system like blood vessels like us. And if you recall the lectures, if you recall the concepts you were taught in class 9th, xylem and phloem are the main vascular bundles which are responsible for conduction of water, minerals plus food. So comparatively, they do not possess any elaborate transport system. Gaseous needs are met only by diffusion through stomata, and also part of lenticels in woody stems, and root hair as far as root is concerned. Plants need to transport water, minerals and food for survival. So two important conducting tissues are there in plant. One is xylem and one is phloem. Xylem will help in conduction of water and minerals. Phloem will help in conduction of the prepared food in the form of sucrose. Xylem has four elements: xylem fibers, xylem parenchyma, trichids and vessels. Trichids are single cell tapering structures with a broader lumen. These are vessels which are joined end to end to form a continuous column of water. This is the xylem fibers providing strength or mechanical support. These are the parenchyma cells. Each parenchyma cell can vary. It can be oval, it can be isodiametric. Central vacuole will be there, nucleus will be there, large intercellular spaces will be there. So these are the four components of xylem which you studied in class 9th. Xylem vessels, trichids, which are the main conducting elements. We call them as trachary elements. Xylem fibers will be for strength, as I said, and parenchyma will be storing food in the form of starch. It can store food in the form of oil, raisins, etc. Now this is how the things move on. The root hair cells, which are single cell, they are dipped in capillary water, as if a straw is dipped in a cold drink bottle. Let me tell you here, roots never penetrate so deep that they can reach the groundwater. This groundwater is useless for roots. And then some water is absorbed by soil particles, hygroscopic water. is also useless for roots. So then which water is useful for roots? It is the water trapped between the soil particles. We call it as capillary water. This capillary water alone is the useful water. So roots are in direct contact with air spaces between soil particles and also with the water. Water moves by osmosis into the root hair cells, and the minerals are absorbed by the root hair, which are dissolved in water. The membrane of plant cell has ion channels and allows certain ions to pass through them. From root hair, water has to reach the xylem. So for that, if you recall the diagram of a root, this was the epidermis of root, having root hair. This was the parenchymatous cortex. And here was present the xylem, phloem, xylem, phloem. And next to endodermis was the layer known as pericycle. Let's say this is endodermis. This is pericycle. From out through root hair, the water has to go into the xylem vessels. So it has to cross the cortex, endodermis, pericycle, and finally it has to reach the xylem. The water in xylem is called xylem sap. That's why transportation of water is known as ascent of sap. Movement of water will occur to aerial parts by xylem elements. It is unidirectional upward. And movement of water and dissolved minerals against gravitation from root to shoot is called ascent of sap, as I said. Various theories were given for ascent of sap. One was root pressure theory. According to this theory, the pressure present inside the water column exerts an upward pressure which makes the water rise up. But this theory was not that relevant. The most important is transpiration, pull or cohesion force theory. Now what is that cohesion force theory? In physics and chemistry you read that water molecules are attracted towards each other. This is cohesive force. Now let's suppose this is the stem, this is the root, this is the leaf. These are the stomata. There is a continuous column of water in the xylem vessels. As water evaporates in the form of water vapors by the process of transpiration, there is an upward pull of water. And because of cohesive force, the water is pulled up. So more the transpiration, more the absorption. That's why we normally write that transpiration is a necessary evil. So the most acceptable theory is cohesion force theory, due to which the cohesive force of water molecules will attract them, helped by transpiration. Root pressure theory. It states that root absorb water and exert hydrostatic pressure inside root, called root pressure. The pressure pushes the water upward in the xylem but it cannot push the water to greater heights. That's why I said this is not most acceptable theory at all. It can be applicable to small plants, but not to trees which are 100 feet high. So this is where the transpiration or cohesion force theory came into existence. Most of the water absorbed by roots of plant is lost through transpiration. As I said, transpiration is necessary evil. So that it creates a tension in the water column which is continuous in xylem elements. The tension developed due to transpiration is called transpiration pull, because of water column is pulled up from below to top of the plant. So this is what is cohesion force theory, which is the most applicable theory. Now, transportation of prepared food from green parts of plant to non-green parts is through phloem, sieve tubes and companion cells. Sieve tubes have pores. They have cytoplasmic strands which are in continuity with another sieve tube through the sieve plate, which is also porous, which is also perforated. Transportation of food is mainly in the form of sucrose and is bidirectional. It can be in upward direction also, it can be in downward direction also. And sieve tubes are flanked by companion cells which will help sieve tubes in transportation of food. So they are the main elements which are responsible for translocation of food. Phloem parenchyma will again help in storage of materials. Phloem fibers are again made up of sclerenchyma, which are dead fibers giving mechanical support. Transport of food. Food material is transported from region of manufacture or storage to region of utilization. Transportation of organic solutes in plants is called translocation. I repeat, transportation of food which has been synthesized by plants is known as translocation from one place to another. The food is prepared by mesophyll cells of the leaf. They enter the sieve tubes, and nutrients being in high concentration exert an osmotic pressure. This osmotic pressure will push the food to that area which has lower osmotic pressure. Due to osmotic pressure, water enters the sieve tubes. This causes increase in turgor pressure of the phloem tissue. Due to this high pressure, the food moves to the plant which has low pressure. This movement of food is called mass flow hypothesis. Actually, my mass flow hypothesis explains, for example, this is a leaf. It is synthesized food. This food will reach the sieve tubes. As a result, the osmotic pressure of the sieve tubes will increase, and from the neighboring xylem vessels, it is going to absorb water, so that turgor pressure increases. Due to increased turgor pressure, the food will go from higher to lower pressure, whether it is upward or downward. This is how it is saying, and this mass flow hypothesis was given by a scientist known as Munch. Munch talks about transportation of food from source to sink. Source is the green part of plant, leaves, green stem, sepals. Sink, non-green parts, roots, fruits, seed, parenchyma. In higher classes, you will be talking about this Maslow hypothesis in a very simple manner in concept of mobilization and immobilization. When food is present in sieve tubes, it is in soluble form as it has drawn water from the neighboring xylem vessels. This is known as mobilization. So here mobilization of food occurs. When it is to be stored at the sink, it will be again mobilized. This is how the flow chart clearly explains. This is the source, companion cells and sieve tubes. They get filled with sucrose. Water is drawn from xylem vessels. And this is what I said is mobilization. When it reaches the sink cells, water is again withdrawn and the food is again immobilized. This is exactly how the things are occurring. This is the activity to show that phloem transports food from green parts to non-green part. This is known as Girdling experiment. What we have done, we have cut the outer part, that is the phloem has been removed. Xylem is intact. So from green parts, when the food wants to reach down, there is no phloem present here. So there is no conduction of food down into the roots. As a result, the food will accumulate here and a swelling will develop. This swelling indicates that when we cut phloem, transportation or translocation of food cannot occur. So phloem is essential for translocation of prepared food. This is proved by Girdling experiment. Comparison between xylem and phloem. This is unidirectional. From bottom to top, and it conducts water and minerals. The walls are thickened with lignin and do not have any end walls. Whereas product of photosynthesis, as I said, mainly sucrose, is bidirectional. It can be upward also, it can be downward also. And the two sieve tubes are joined by perforated end walls known as sieve plates. The flow chart, how the food, this is how water is being conducted and this is how food is being conducted. So it is proving this is unidirectional. This is in this direction also, in this direction also, bidirectional. Now let's come to some questions that how much we have understood. Which one of the following will not directly affect transpiration? Temperature, it will affect, because more the temperature, more the heat, more the water loss. Light, it will affect, because stomata, they open only during presence of light. Wind speed, yes, it will affect, क्योंकि जब आप देखो हवा चल रही होती है तो कपड़े जल्दी सूख जाते हैं. आप फैन के नीचे, पसीना आया हुआ है, फैन के नीचे खड़े हो जाओ, you'll get dry soon. So जितनी ज़्यादा wind speed होगी उतनी ज़्यादा transpiration होगी, because air will not be saturated above the stomata. Chlorophyll content of leaf, this has nothing to do with transpiration. So which will not directly affect transpiration, that is D answer is the correct answer. In which form sugar is transported through phloem? Sucrose. Sucrose is a disaccharide. It is made up of glucose plus fructose. In terms of permeability, cell wall and plasma membrane are, cell wall is completely permeable. Cell membrane is differentially or semi-permeable. So let's see. Cell wall is completely permeable and cell membrane is differentially or semi-permeable. This is the correct answer. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Plants absorb minerals from the soil in dissolved state with water through root hair. Transport of food from leaves to root takes place through phloem, sieve tubes and companion cells. Thank you. We continue further in the next lecture for transportation in animals.